What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about how to attract the right clients with your brand, okay? In three different categories: positioning, messaging, and visual aesthetic. So before we get into that, guys, just want to do a quick little promo for my brand assessment. This brand assessment is for business owners that are feeling stuck, are feeling unclear, feeling unfocused when it comes to their brand's messaging, maybe their visual identity, and their position in the marketplace. Okay. So what we do in this assessment is we figure out where you are right now, what those challenges are, and what needs to happen in order to overcome those challenges to achieve what it is that you are looking for. Okay. From there, I could prescribe somewhat of a strategy customized for you to get you where you want to go. So with all that said, let's jump into today's episode. What is going on, Oasis? I got my phone blowing up over here, so I forgot to turn it off. So
everyone in the audience, please put your phones on silent, please.
And this new iPhone 13, it's the button on the side is so damn small. I need like mini fingers.
Oh goodness, man.
Oh God. Anyway,
how are you, man?
Doing awesome.
How's your new year coming along so far?
Dude, 12 days
already
in.
10 days in. 12 days in, yeah.
And I'm feeling pumped. I'm feeling pumped. So,
and may I compliment you on such a beautiful cardigan that you're wearing?
I promise you guys, we did not coordinate wardrobes today. We did not coordinate wardrobes today.
Great minds think alike.
Right? So on Monday's live stream, we talked about how to attract the right clients and what are some big problems that brands may be facing, which is resulting in getting a bunch of the wrong clients down their sales pipeline, right? And clogging up their time, clogging up their energy, clogging up money. And so what we narrowed it down to was poor positioning, poor messaging, and poor visual aesthetic. Okay. We gave some examples there. If you guys want to check out that video, you could go. It's just the video next to this one on the YouTube, on the tubes. So today we promise that we were going to break down those three categories and talk about how you can level up your positioning, messaging, and visual aesthetic. So I want to dive into positioning as number one. So always, what are some important things to consider when you are considering your position in your marketplace?
Well, okay, so product market fit and pricing strategy, I think, is going to be my top, and it's for me. And then I always tell my clients the same thing. Do you know, or do you have a fit with who you're going to work with, and can they afford you?
Yeah. So simply put, are you going to position yourself as the affordable solution, or are you going to position yourself as the premium. / exclusive for maybe position?
Exactly. High volume, and it's just basically you're trying to be something to everyone, or are you going to be selective and take on very select few clients? You know, are you, again, think about the amount of high-end Ferraris or Lamborghinis, you know, even like if you look at Lamborghinis or Rolls Royce or like a lot of the supercars, they start filtering down, even Porsches, right? They start filtering down even more. They'll have a line of cars that are specific for just very select people. Yep. And you know, super expensive, so they're like even more tuned up.
Yep.
So it's kind of that same sort of a scenario here. You may have a couple of offerings that you know are relevant for a wider audience, but then you have some that are only for a very select few.
Right, like the Mansory edition of Rolls Royce, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's like the super ultra high end version model, whatever you want to call it, right? Thing's insane, by the way. So very good points. Now, I recently was studying Sarah Blakely. I love Sarah Blakely. If you guys don't know who Sarah Blakely is, you need to know who this woman is. She is amazing. She is the founder of Spanx, the women's brand. Pantyhose with the legs cut out basically is what Spanx is. But it morphed into something way, way bigger than that. But anyway, I think she recently sold or I forget what she did, but she is a phenomenal entrepreneur, self-starter. She started that company with $5,000. It's $1 billion company now. So awesome woman. But she was talking about brand association, and when she got started, she got into Neiman Marcus and Nordstrom pretty quickly out of the gate, right? And one of the things she was talking about was brand association is everything. So, would it hinder my brand if I accepted Walmart as a distributor? And the answer is yes, it would. Right? So if you're a personal brand or you're a small business of any sort and you're putting your brand next to or you're collaborating with other brands that may be not a good look, right? I just heard Rob Eager talk about this too. When they were buying Pixar, when they were buying Marvel, that wasn't an easy acquisition. There was a lot of people opposed to it, especially with the Marvel deal, because they thought that some people thought in the Disney camp that Marvel was too much of a violent brand, and that wasn't going to fly well with Disney and their culture, right? But Bob was able to convince those folks that, as brands evolve and as this world evolves, things are getting edgier. So Disney needs to come up with their version of edge. So, they acquired Marvel. So it just goes to show that brand association is very, very important.
That's true.
And all those little details matter. What else we got here, Oasis? We got boundaries, right? Talk to us about boundaries.
So again, boundaries, I would go in the direction of value ladder on this one, and not too far into that. But again, what areas of your service offerings or product offerings do you want as paid features, and what areas are you offering for free?
Or do you not offer anything for free?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like when you walk into the Gucci store at the mall, what are they? You're not even getting a perfume you're not even getting a sample.
You're not even getting a sample. Yeah, that's true.
Well, maybe a sample if it's cologne, but I mean, you get what I'm saying. There is no freebies coming from those types of brands, right? And that's all done intentionally. It's all done intentionally, right? So I like to share my example of the brand assessment. That is a paid gateway so that I can filter out the very interested, very committed versus the window shopper.
Yeah.
If you're going to book an assessment with me and put down $500 on that call, you're pretty serious about getting your problems solved. So when I get on that phone call, or it's not a phone call, it's a Zoom, but when I get on that session, I have a lot of information about that client already before I even get on the phone with them, because I have a very detailed questionnaire that they have to fill out, and I have a lot of meat to work with. So when I get on that call, I can get right into it, and we get right to business, right? And I know a lot of their issues and pain points already. I don't have to discover those, but The point that I'm trying to make is I used to do this for free. You know what I used to get? A lot of people just wanting free information. And I'm just at a point in my career where
No,
I don't want to do that anymore.
just want to pick your brain. And that's
Yeah,
it.
my value, my time is too valuable at
Exactly.
this point. So we got a question from, looks like Michelle. Is it possible for a solopreneur brand to shift from a lower cost image to a high end image when past branding is all over the internet? Yes. The answer is
Why not?
yes.
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
You absolutely can. Brands do it all the time. Hell, if you Googled back far enough and found some of my old work, you would cringe because it's so terrible. I'm just being honest. It's so bad.
Oh,
In
so
my opinion,
relatable.
right? It's through my eyes, right? But yeah, absolutely. I think the minute people start to invest in themselves and in their brand, and we'll get into brand visual aesthetic in a second. It's going to be a game changer. So that's how you can attract the right clients through the right positioning. Okay. Now let's get into messaging because I think this is very, very, it's extremely important, if not one of the most important parts of the branding process. And so my big question to you guys is, who are you speaking to? I had a guest on my show not too long ago, and he said, the typical clients that I serve are either startups or stuck. And I thought that is a great way to bucket his client profiles, right? And so you got to know who you're talking to because startups are struggling with things way differently. And their problems and challenges are so different than, let's say, a client that we would typically work with who's maybe 2 to 3 years, 5 years plus
5 years in, yeah.
in, and maybe they're stuck. So love to get your take on this, Awais.
Absolutely. So when you talk about startups or just, like who are you speaking to?
Mhm.
I talk about the different decision makers.
Okay.
Particularly in B2B, I've said this before. In B2B, you could have up to 8 different decision makers that are part of the buy process. So if you have a business that's selling a product or a service to another business, that customer is essentially an entire business comprised of about anywhere from 4 to 8 different members that are going to make a decision throughout that buy process. Now, what does that mean? They all have different values, they all have different behaviors, they all have different psychographics that we have to evaluate. And how you may speak to a CEO or a business owner is going to be entirely different from how you're going to speak to someone that's in a directorial position. What's at stake for a business owner is entirely different if he makes the wrong decision compared to what's at stake for someone that is employed by that business owner and is in a directorial position.
Less risk. Right?
Exactly. So your messaging has to be completely different.
Right. I shouldn't say less risk. I mean, that director could be fired and that could be a huge
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But it's an entirely different situation, right? The business could completely shut down if the worst possible outcome of a CEO making or a business owner making a bad decision is the business could shut down or the business performance could be completely catastrophic over the course of the next year versus a director that's making a bad decision. Well, again, it might be that he doesn't get a bonus this year or she doesn't get a bonus this year.
Yeah.
Right. Or they're demoted or someone else takes their place. So I look at it from that aspect in terms of what could happen. Obviously, one of the tools that if we're retained at that high level of an engagement, one of the other things that we take a look at is what their communication style is. So, you take a look at things like DISC. There's a tool out there called Crystal Knows, and it's an AI tool that essentially takes up all of the data that's on the web about, let's say, Henry Kaminski, and everything that he's put out there in terms of content, emails, and all of that. And it takes into consideration in terms of how to speak to Henry Kaminski. So if I wanted to type up an email, yeah. So if I wanted to type up an email that says, what is the best way for me to communicate to Henry, and how do I draft this email? Crystal Knows will tell me how to draft that email. Now, imagine if you have an email list going out to multiple decision makers that are at different tier levels, and they have different speaking styles, and you have all of those categories or those psychographics integrated in there. Now you can have specific emails that speak in a very specific style to that type of a group.
It's amazing. So Crystal Knows, is that software or
Yeah.
or all right, we got to check that out, because that's very intriguing to me.
It's scary. It's scary, but it's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is that a paid or a free thing?
It's a paid. Yeah.
Okay. So here's another one when it comes to messaging, and you guys heard this one 1,000 times, but I'm going to take it a step further. So everybody that all the marketers out there, they say, what keeps your clients up at night? What do you, right? And I used to hate that question, right? Until I figured out the answer. And I don't know, I can't speak for everybody that's on this live right now, but when I'm speaking to a client or a potential client, one of their biggest fears is the fear of loss, So my challenge to everybody watching today is, okay, so if your clients share the same fear as my clients, right? Well, what kind of loss are they fearing? Is it market share? Is it the loss of time? Is it the loss of, right? I mean, you could break time down into many different categories, family time, but what kind of loss is your clients afraid of? Okay. That's something that you really have to pay attention to, because then your messaging can speak to that loss.
Exactly.
And you're going to be impact.
So I spoke to a client of mine yesterday. I actually posted about this. You probably read it earlier. He was like, man, I'm constantly exchanging my time for money, and I know I'm going to end up capping out. So I told him, I was like, look, you guide large corporate clients to retain to help them retain their key people, right? So that's what you're keeping them from losing. Quantify that. That's where your message needs to be directed, instead of saying, okay, well, here's my rate for providing you with the service. You're providing your level of expertise, your experience, and your thinking.
Yeah.
Why are you giving that away for free? And if you think that you're not giving that away for free, well, look at what you're doing. You're exchanging time for money. Mm-hmm. So the way that you increase the value for that, or the way that you monetize on that thinking, is by saying, how much is it going to cost you to replace these people that you have invested so much time and money into, in recruiting them, hiring them, training them, keeping them. And now if they're 10 years in, if they leave, what's the cost of that?
Yeah. Hiring and firing is a very costly action. That's why, listen, I pride myself on having the same team for the past 6 years. We had a few people come in and out, but my design team has been with me for 6 years. And that's, there's something to be said about that. Like, I hear colleagues of mine all the time, I can't find the right talent. How do I find the right talent? It's an investment. It's certainly an investment. So, you have to keep that in mind. But again, Michelle said her clients fear the loss of relevance. That's a
Yeah,
big one.
that's a big one.
It's a
Yeah.
big one. As we get older, my wife posed that question to me last year, the year before. She says, what are you going to do when you're 50? Are you like, are you, and you're not as relevant anymore.
No.
Right. And then I just say, it's my responsibility to stay relevant. Isn't
Yeah.
it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. For any business.
Any business.
Any business. I mean, you either evolve or dissolve.
I love that. I love that. Okay, before we run out of time here, guys, because I gotta go to a dentist appointment in the next hour, and I'm dreading it. They gotta do 2 cavities. Forget it. That's not gonna be fun. I had 2 cavities my whole life. Three, my whole life.
Have you been going through Dante's Halloween candy? I guess that's what's been happening.
Oh, it's crazy. Anyway, I want to get into visual aesthetic. Okay. Because now I may come across as a little brat here because, again, I'm a designer by trade. I've been designing for 15 years. That's my business, right? I no longer do the physical labor. I have the team doing that, but you could consider me an art director, whatever. But I look at brands and I look at visual aesthetics way different than the average person just because of my background. And the first thing that I look at is look and feel. And within seconds, I know whether or not that brand is premium or exclusive, fun or inviting, retro or modern, cheap or next level, higher end. Like, I can see that within seconds. And that's going to set the tone of whether or not I want to engage them. And I'll share with you why. There's certain things that I will pay a premium for because of the value and benefit and how long that piece is going to last me, right? I'm not going to cheap out on a car. I'm not going to cheap out on a car, even though there's some cars out there like Land Rover that aren't really reliable anymore because they're building them with cheaper and cheaper parts. But I'm going to buy a vehicle and I'll spend the extra so that I know that I'm going to get from point A to point B. Right. So if I see a brand that just looks real cheap and just subpar, I'm automatically going to think, is that what their product and service is going to deliver?
No.
And here's another piece, like the imagery that you use. Like, look at the thumbnails that I use, like that I've been using for YouTube over the past couple of weeks. I spend a premium on my imagery because that's the position I want in the marketplace. I don't want to look like everybody else on YouTube. Like, the cheesy looking thumbnails that they look like they did them on their phone, like app. Like, I don't want to look that way.
Yeah.
I don't. It looks so cheap to me.
Yeah.
So
what impression does that make, on your brand, and what impression does that even generate trust?
I'll be honest with you. I'll answer that question straight up. Gimmicky.
Yeah.
Gimmicky. That's what I get when I see cheesy thumbnails on YouTube. Gimmicky. So very, very important. Like, when we're creating brands for clients, we have a brand guideline system that we create for them. And in that document, we have what we call image treatment, and we showcase the quality of imagery that's expected in future design work. And when we pass that off to the client then could pass that off to any creative company that they decide to use. And so now that creative knows, I got to stay within this parameter. Yeah. Otherwise, it's not going to, the design isn't going to be approved. So your imagery is going to be extremely important moving forward. If you overuse stock photography and the same friggin' models and the same friggin' backgrounds are on other people's websites, like, Houston, you got a problem. Yeah. You got a problem. So paying attention to image treatments. And then last but not least, I mean, let's not underestimate the type of typography that you use. What are you using for your headline fonts? What are you using for your subtext? And is it all consistent? How many times do I go to websites and there's 3 or 4 or 5 different types of fonts on the site? Drives me mad.
I don't care what you say, Henry. I mean, for me, like Times New Roman and Comic Sans are the go-tos. You know, I mean,
That's when you know
it's
you
pretty
have
standard.
that's when you have a serious problem. When you're using Comic Sans, you're finished. I'm teasing, but these are some of the things that now I don't expect you to go out there and become a professional designer. That's not, that's not my client. My client does not necessarily want to know what types of typography. They want me to pick for them. Perfect example. I was on a client call today. We're reviewing his new website, and there's a few other supplement materials that I have to create. One being their podcast intro and outro. And he said, Henry, if there's one thing that you can help me with is getting the right music and get it so that it sets the right tone. You know my brand. You've helped me rebrand. Like, you know me inside. You know my product. Like, he made this example. He said, back in the day, girls used to tell me I could dance, and they were probably just telling me that, right, to make me feel good, right? I need somebody that actually knows what to pick. And that's my client. My client's not going to spend the time trying to figure this shit out. That's why they're hiring me. That's why they're investing in it, the way they're investing in it, right? So I just want to give you some high level stuff here so that you can walk away going, I haven't really thought about that. I didn't realize it was so important. Because here's the deal. You said it on Monday. I think you did always. You said your website design, any sort of design or visual aesthetic that you use on social media or the internet says a lot about you before you even have a chance to speak.
Exactly.
That one ranked. That one really hit home for me.
Or let's turn it around. Like, I'll put you in the spotlight here. You show up with the level of knowledge, the expertise, and you're able to get that out in a very articulate manner. Now, my question to you would be, does the branding and all of the brand assets that are out there that are in the virtual world, wherever they might be, all of that, does that accurately reflect what you're bringing here?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to say yes now, because I've done some updating over the course of the years. And to Michelle's point before, you got to start somewhere, right? But you got to get to a point where basic is no longer allowed or tolerable, right? I had an assessment call earlier this week, and she said, Henry, I never had to market myself because I always had referrals coming in, but it's to the point now where I have to, and I can't settle for basic. I need something that's really going to represent me. And I said, well, you came to the right house, right? But to your point, to this day, yes, it does. Anything that I touch has to have a level of quality to it. Otherwise, I'm not putting it out. I'd rather put out nothing than something that looks super cheap and amateur. Exactly. And I don't do cheap and amateur. I just don't.
So I'm going to challenge the audience and anyone else listening in with one question. How is your brand representing you in your absence?
There you go.
When you're not in that room.
What's it saying about you? Right? What's it saying about you? What does it stand for? What does it not stand for? Like, it's so important. That's your brand aesthetic online, from look to messaging to position, again, says a lot about you. Your social media platforms are now your resume.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to, guys. So
that is your virtual sales rep.
that's it. That's why branding's so damn important. Okay, that's what I want you guys to take away today. So if you want to charge the part, you got to look the part. You got to deliver the part. So with all that said, I can't wait to get Novocaine'd up and get these fillings filled.
Good luck, man.
So last but not least, I want you guys to, I want to leave with this. Okay. Is your brand about you? Or is it really about the people that you serve? Okay. Because I heard Bob Iger say this yesterday. He said, branding is that relationship that your business has with its customers. I thought that was very interesting. I like that definition. I like Marty Neuheimer's, Marty Neuheimer's definition too, which is that gut feeling you get when people interact with your business, right? Yeah. That's good too. But at the end of the day, guys, yes, your brand, messaging, positioning, and visual aesthetic needs to feel good with you.
All of it translates to feeling, how they feel about you. Not necessarily what you're just projecting, but how they feel about you, because that's what's going to translate into them making a buying decision.
Bingo. It's so if your brand isn't relevant or resonating, there's a big issue there. And that's what we need to create. Okay. So I got to run. Have an amazing day, guys. Guys, in the comments, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, and also drop in the comments what your biggest takeaway of today's video was. Feel free to share this, tag me in it. I will respond immediately. And don't forget to catch us live every every Monday, Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Monday is our What Would You Do If series, where we help small business owners figure out certain situations inside of their businesses that they may experience and how to overcome them. And on Wednesdays, it's more of a tactical approach to helping you solve these problems inside of your business when it comes to branding, messaging, marketing, etc. So have an amazing day, guys, and we will catch you on the next one real soon. Take care.